So on today's breakdown, we're going to be looking at a brand called Wolfbox that makes dash cams for different car models. And basically, what we're going to get into is what they're doing well on their blog, what they're not doing well with organic content, and a couple of the quick wins, and then the opportunity audit. How much can they make from just writing good content? What's working in the space around other dashcam retailers as well as just technology retailers generally, the pillars that we propose for them to write about, and then a 90-day plan to get them through all of that, as well as the fundamentals of the content that are really important to keep in mind as any brand is creating content. So just a quick introduction. My name is Evan. We run an agency that does SEO and AI optimized content for brands like Wolfbox. So basically we handle strategy all the way to publishing on your website to bring more organic visitors into your brand. And basically the idea is to take the grind off of your marketing team from doing customer acquisition and allow content to do that, and then repurpose that content through AI into email, ads, social posts all over the place. And you already have a lot of this content. A lot of brands have internal knowledge bases. They have support lines and tons of data. We can use AI to mine that and then repurpose that into blog posts that can then be repurposed all across social and other channels. So that's what we do. Let's get back to Wolfbox. So I like to start these just with immediate value, the quick things that I noticed about Wolfbox and their content strategy and their content in general and their content quality. So the first thing I noticed when I was looking through their blog, which is just this dashcams guide section, I like that it's guides. They're at least focusing on the experience of using the product and how to get the most out of it. But most of these posts read a lot more like spec sheets than actual guides. And I can tell this is very quickly generated with low-grade AI. So it seems like there's not very much detail. That's very common with using low-grade, non-thinking AI tools to create content. And it doesn't add a lot of value for readers. So like here you can see a nice long spec sheet, but a lot of this, it doesn't really translate to what is the value to a customer, how does this help a customer. It's good if you are a technical buyer, but buyers of products, they're trying to connect with the brand and what it's going to do for them. They don't necessarily care as much about the specs. So the first thing I would do if I was Wolfbox, I would look through the content and just rewrite those current posts that read more like spec sheets and make them true guides to solve real customer problems. And I've noticed that this works because, for instance, I have Wolfbox pulled up here. I'm looking at their blog in Ahrefs, which is a tool for looking at traffic and rankings in Google. And I can see that Wolfbox is fairly new to the organic content game. They've only been doing it for about a year. But it's saying they have 94 crawled pages in their blog and only 118 traffic per day, which is pretty bad, like one visit per day, whereas content usually I'm seeing is performing a lot higher, like 20, 50, 100 visits per day per piece of content. So that's kind of what we see as a benchmark for more quality content. Lower quality content is actually probably going to hurt your brand in rankings because search engines and AI, they are also sniffing around at user signals. So they are going to see when users come to a document like this and they very quickly realize that there is not value in this for them for solving the problem that they came here to solve, in this case finding a wireless dash cam. And so they're going to leave, and that signal gets sent back to Google, it gets sent back to AI crawlers, and they basically mark down this content, they mark down the brand, and they say, okay, this is not valuable, so we're not going to recommend content from this brand, we're not going to recommend this piece of content. So that's kind of the danger of making low quality content, which I see a lot of brands doing with AI, just using very cheap models, producing a ton of content, but then they get screwed with very low traffic and they end up just wasting a lot of time and effort to actually damage their brand rather than get the huge results that you can get from content. So that's reworking the current content. Then I would also change this Our Story section. Very easy. Just change Our Story to news. It's much more aligned with what people are probably looking for. And also a lot of these things are not about their story. They're more just general content. And Our Story just is too bland in general. So it could be a different type of guides. They already have dashcam guides here. It could just be generalized guides section, but that also helps tell Google what this section is about rather than being an about page, which is sort of what it sounds like. Another thing that I would do immediately is mirror all of their videos into articles. So this is very simple to do. We have a very robust workflow for this, basically, where we can take any video and create an article from it with photos and everything using AI to just translate it over. And all these videos, they're really, really good. Having videos is amazing for customer engagement. But the problem is that search engines and crawlers, especially AI crawlers, they don't want to spend the effort that it requires for that machine to watch the video, understand what's being said, transcribe it, all of that. So you're basically doing that for them by creating a blog post and then giving them something ready-made, already structured in a format that those machines can understand. And that allows them to then index it within the search and within AI. So that will really help bring out a lot of this information. You already have really good videos on here and great fit guides and everything. They can just be made into articles as well. Then people who don't want to watch too can just read. So it helps you get ranked and it helps reach different types of customers who maybe don't want to watch a video, they want to read. And of course, you can interlink as well. The videos can link to the posts and the posts can embed the videos. So you can get some juice out of both. And then rich media and CTAs. So this is a big thing that I notice missing on pretty much most brand blogs. But as you can see, as I scroll through here, there's very little media. They've got one of their videos, which is really good. And they've got a table, but you have to scroll all the way down to the middle of the article to find any products. And even then, they're not really introduced in terms of what type of customer would really benefit from this. Again, it's just a spec sheet. You're just given a long spec sheet, and customers don't buy specs, they buy a solution. This is pretty good, having a table here that kind of breaks down different information and best for. Like, I love having this type of information to sort customers so that customers know which product is right for them. We never really want to say that this product is good for everyone should buy that, because nobody believes that. But we also don't want to leave anyone hanging that, there's no product for you. There should be a product or a solution for every type of customer that's going to end up on this page. But what we do on our articles on our test website, which we get about $2,000 in sales per article. We have about 200 articles, so $2,000 in sales per year is about 500 grand per year from that website, just from pure organic content. There's no store associated, no other traffic sources that are feeding that. That's all from organic content. So one big best practice we have is, one, no huge visual above the fold here, because especially someone even on this desktop, but on a mobile device, they have to scroll to see any content. And that is a huge trigger for people to just back button and go out and go look at another search result. So you never want to have a huge featured image here. And this one doesn't really add all that much to the post anyway. And then we always want to have a short introduction that hooks people. I'll get into these fundamentals later, but we want to have a short, hooky introduction. And then we want to get right into who should buy which product. For this type of roundup where we are getting buyers who are directly interested in buying this product. They want a wireless dash cam and they have come here for that solution, then we should give them exactly what they want right at the beginning. So what we usually do, I'll show you on our site, like we have this roundup on best modular helmets. So we get right into the introduction, we build some rapport, I'll get into that later about how we hook readers in the introduction, and then we break down which modular helmet is perfect for you. So we have touring riders, street riders and commuters, and urban riders in a city. And we're missing a letter there, nice. And then we're giving them those products immediately so they can go out and buy them. And then we've got a nice table here with just the right amount of information so that they can go and check out that product themselves. So we want to get those people who are just looking for the right solution directly to the products, and then they can make the decision there. And then the rest of the article is to show them why those products are good for different use cases, how to use them to quell different doubts. That's really what all that content is for. But we want to show them the products right up front when they're in an article like this, where they're clearly looking for a specific product and they're in the market to buy it. So those are the quick things. Rework the blog, change that our story heading, mirroring the videos, and then adding rich media and CTAs. And like I've said throughout all of these don't just apply to Wolfbox. These apply to just about every brand that I look at and their organic content. I see so many brands making these very simple mistakes that if they fix them, they would literally 10x their return from organic content, if not a lot more, within a few months. So the first thing that I like to do after I go through those quick hits is the opportunity audit. So why are we talking about organic content? And the reason is that the opportunity around organic content is really being slept on for most brands. Most brands think of it as, oh, you want to write on my blog, and blog content is so 2010s. Well, especially with AI and its need to be fed information, writing and producing written word information is the best way to have your brand seen and loved by customers. And that's because if you're creating really helpful content, not only is that content going to get picked up by Google and picked up by AI, but it's going to get shared by your customers. It's going to be used on forums. Your support team and your sales teams and marketing teams can use that content in different ways, and it's going to benefit customers. Customers are then sharing it more. Then that's feeding the AI and the search engines and telling them, hey, this is really good content. We should show this to more people. So it creates this flywheel just by creating that piece of content. Whereas other marketing channels, you have to be constantly paying or constantly posting just to keep up and just to be somewhat relevant. And it creates a very promotional and pushy energy from the brand. Whereas organic content, you're basically just creating really helpful things and then letting people appreciate that and come back to your brand more and more. So it's a little bit slower of a burn, but the market opportunity here for organic content is massive because most brands are totally sleeping on it. So as far as Wolfbox and dashcams, we looked a bit into the dashcam market. It is growing globally 7 to 30% every year. There are several big competitors as well to Wolfbox, like Viofo and Nextbase, which we'll get into later. And I think Wolfbox's content strategy and content quality is really hurting their competition versus Viofo and Nextbase and some of the strategies that they're using. So as far as the search volume, this is purely just Google search volume, how many people are searching for dashcams. It's 167,000 searches per month, people that are searching for dashcams that are interested in buying one. So I like to run this lost revenue calculation. Like, what is Wolfbox losing every month and every year by not having really good organic content? And if we look at their average order value, their average pricing for their products, a dashcam, it's around, say, $260. So if they just get 5% of those searches per month for dashcam, which is very reasonable. That's like ranking third in Google. That gets them 8,000 additional visits per month at a 2% conversion rate, which is also very reasonable. That's an extra 43,000 in revenue per month, or 500,000 per year in additional revenue just from creating this content. And the cost of this content will be a tiny, tiny fraction of that, especially if you're doing it with AI on your own. But even if you're paying an agency like mine to handle everything end to end and just produce tons of content very quickly, this is like a 10x multiple on what you're going to pay for that content. So as we've been talking about, the problems really are around strategy. It's very fragmented. There's a lot of overlap in the different topics that are being created. The quality is very low, so that needs to be brought up a lot, much more helpful content. And the structure is just very random. Like my teammate said, schizo. It's very schizo structure in the technicals with the links and with the internal links as well, like pages linking to each other. It's another thing we'll talk about in fundamentals, but having these pillars and hubs of content that are linking to each other is very important for showing the machines, the Google and the AI crawlers, what content is related to what and what themes go along with other themes. Very, very important for ranking content and getting a lot of organic traffic. So what is working in this space? So let's go a little bit beyond Wolfbox and just look at some other examples of brands that are doing interesting things with content. So we looked at Nextbase as well, which does basically the same thing. They create smart dash cams, and they are creating these guides to help buyers figure out which dash cam is right for you. They're creating setup and install resources. They're catching users from basically discovery here all the way through purchase and supporting them after purchase. And like I said earlier, that full length of content, it means that people who are looking for a product, if they find a really helpful guide, they're probably going to share it. They're going to spend a lot of time on it. And then once they have the product, they're going to be looking at those guides, spending time on it. That's sending a lot of signals to different crawlers and monitoring systems on the web that are basically telling Google search and AI crawlers and everything that people like this content, we should share it more. So Wolfbox is doing a little bit of this, but I just like showing this Nextbase one because they really get to the point very quickly. They talk about some of the common pain points like fleet services and rideshare drivers that have different requirements for dash cams, and then what makes for a good dash cam. They get directly to it. That Nextbase has robust 30 frames per second. It has image stabilization for smooth capture. These are the things that are really important, and they're building trust with readers immediately that Nextbase is the right place to be if you are looking for a dash cam. So that's a really good example of a nice intro and a nice guide topic for Wolfbox to be emulating. Versus pages is another one that I have seen a lot of success with in our content strategy on It's Better on the Road as well. And basically, versus content is either these types of roundups where you're comparing products one to the other, maybe in different customer types or different product types, or you are doing a direct competitor comparison where you're comparing your product or two products in your area against each other. So this is another example of best overall, best value, best mid-range, best budget. Yeah, so like Viofo A229 versus Wolfbox G900, and just going through point by point what is most important for a potential buyer, and then how do these two match up, and then which is better for which type of driver, or a mirror dash cam versus a compact dash cam. That's more of a general topic, but still gets the same idea of versus. The great thing about versus is they are very low down on the funnel. So when you are talking about best dash cams, best mirror dash cams, or mirror dash cam versus compact, Viofo versus Wolfbox, people are ready to buy. They just are looking for the best one for them, or they're comparing two models. They're ready to buy. They just need someone to push them right over the edge. And that's exactly what Versus Pages will do. So you can create a lot of these programmatically pretty easily because all of the stats are out there for, especially for this type of technical product. So again, this is a great use case for AI where AI can just print out these pages very, very quickly. And we have a custom built agent flow that does this with Versus products. So it looks up the product and the stats and everything and creates articles on the fly. Viofo is another great example of a competitor that's doing a lot of great product education and comparisons. What I also want to highlight is they are benefiting from third-party editorial wins. So this is another service that we are working on and just now testing with a couple brands and launching. But basically we're launching these authority mentions where we will get your brand shown in major authoritative publications. So again, we do it end to end. We prospect, pitch, and place the mentions and the links in very authoritative publications. And basically that lifts up the ranking because it's a reputation signal to Google and to AI that you know what you're talking about, people are linking to it and they're liking it. So that's another service that we are offering. And Viofo is doing it very well just by giving out products. This, a lot of brands are doing, they're just giving out products to brands like Tech Radar or to influencers. It does work, but the problem is it's very spotty. A lot of influencers just never answer. They just take the product and disappear with it, or they write a really bad review or create a really not even negative video or review, but just a very low quality one that doesn't represent your brand in the way that you want to be represented. And so that's what we control for when we do those authority mentions that I mentioned earlier. So that a great example is Tech Radar. They took one of Wolfbox's dash cams. We'll find it on here. And yeah, they said basically that the subline is that it was problematic for them, but could be perfect for you. And when you read through this article and when you look at that roundup, they're giving it a 3 out of 5 star verdict. So not great. And I think they did have it mentioned in here when I checked, but maybe they took it out actually. Let's see. It could be in here as well. So I swear it was in there. If they took it out, that's another example of why. Wow. So they took it out because it's not one of the best dash cams. So that shot them in the foot so much for Wolfbox to basically send a free piece of gear and then not get mentioned in the best roundup. Their competitors are getting mentioned instead. And the strange thing about this is if you read that review for Wolfbox, the only negative comment he had about it is that it didn't fit on his car's mirror. So he didn't actually get to test the product and see if it was good for him and give it a positive review, because I'm sure if he had attached it to the correct mirror, then it possibly could have been a perfect review. But this is something that when you're doing outreach to these kind of influencers or publications to do these tests, it has to be caveated. You need to have these relationships and back and forth and everything. And that's why doing the free product for review thing like really can be a crapshoot. You can get really bad results out of it. But when done well, it can get good links and good reviews. But again, we do that automatically. You just pay us and we handle getting the reviews and the mentions into the brands. So Nexar is another one. They blend buyer content with data and vision-led thought leadership, which is something I also noticed is missing in Wolfbox, having a little bit more thought leadership around dash cams and innovative features in dash cams, and just pushing it more the different ways that they are innovating and beating out their competitors. Why is Wolfbox a step ahead and better than other dashcam competitors? So as far as what pillars of content I would write if we took over Wolfbox as an account. So the pillars are basically different categories of content that we will create for a brand, and they are targeted to the ideal customer profile and to the products that the brand sells. So in this case, with dashcams, it's a pretty technical product that has some compatibility and install that is not only an after purchase question, but a pre-purchase question to make sure that it's working, that it will work for the car that you have, the vehicle that you have, in the situation that you're in. So creating like vehicle specific install guides, or even guides to best dash cams for Ford F-150, for Ford Ranger, for these popular vehicle models, so that when people are looking for the dash cam for their vehicle, they're getting to exactly the right Wolfbox product, instead of the issue like we had with this review, where he received a product for testing that didn't even fit his car. So that will help you grab people that are looking for a specific fit into their vehicle, make sure that they're buying the right product. Reviews and comparisons. So this one's pretty easy, but versus pages, doing the roundup content. This is all buyer intent content, where people are ready to buy, they want to buy a dash cam. You just need to show them which one is the best one for them. Brand updates. So I noticed that Wolfbox is doing a lot with firmware updates and making sure that they are showing how they're developing and updating their products. So that would be good to keep going with, and then also helps with email capture for existing owners and to keep owners engaged with the product and updating it and happy with it. Customer stories is also a nice brand update that this doesn't really rank in Google, but it can be very useful in AI when people are asking for honest reviews of products. They will link to customer stories that you're putting on your website. So that can be really, really helpful. And they're really good for sharing and just for creating brand trust in general. When a customer can see a lot of that type of content, or when you have a best guide, top rated dual dash cams, for instance, you can have links to, here are 5 customer stories of our customers that own these products and how they use them and what they love about them. And you can create a nice flywheel. I'll show you. Pandomoto has this crash tested series on their blog, where basically if someone crashes in their gear, they can get, whoa, that's rough. They can get a piece of free replacement gear for whatever they crashed in if they just send a couple photos and tell Pando what happened. And then Pando is using AI to create an article out of that tells the story of the crash and how the gear performed, essentially. So Wolfbox obviously wouldn't be writing crash tested stories, but they could be writing customer testimonials in a similar way, and then giving customers like 10% off their next dash cam, or 10% off to give to a friend to buy a dash cam from Wolfbox, and create a nice flywheel that way. So like they could send regular emails out to their loyal customers every month. Hey, if you want to create a story about using your dash cam, send us some pictures and some information, and then we will create a post out of that, and we'll give you a coupon to use or to give to a friend to buy another dash cam. So customer stories, really, really good. That kind of goes with UGC Hub as well, just getting clips from customers, maybe from their dash cams, and using that to just create shorts on Instagram and other types of content. And then legal and insurance. So dash cam, laws, and insurance. I see this type of law and insurance content perform super, super well across every niche, because everyone is wondering about this type of stuff, especially when they buy a product like this. Because if it's illegal, they can't use it. It's just an important question to get answered. I see this a lot with helmets. I see it a lot with touring and motorcycle licenses and things. So dashcam laws and insurance would be really good to just create guides around that, create per state guides, stuff like that. And then video quality and reliability, doing a breakdown and explainers on some of these different sensors and technical terms. And usually what I like to do is embed this within content, but depending on how technical it gets, it can help to have separate explainers about it and then link out to those explainers. And that just helps people who want to dig deeper. They can go find that content. It also helps AI have something to read from and cite from when somebody asks, they're asking ChatGPT for the best dash cam, and it's saying this one has Starvis 2. Well, what is Starvis 2? And then it's linking and showing Wolfbox is explaining that Starvis 2 is this. And that creates a lot of trust with the reader that, okay, Wolfbox knows what they're talking about because they are explaining these different sensors. Creates a ton of trust. And then things like memory cards, loop recordings, the G-sensor lock, how it performs in crash scenarios, all that kind of stuff. Just to have that detailed out in separate guides can be really helpful. So as far as fundamentals, these are the fundamentals of the pieces of content themselves. So basically, I'll just go through this as quickly as I can. The first thing that we want to make sure that we're nailing with content is that it is engaging and it's published with consistency. So the way that we handle this on our website is we create briefs and templates that incorporate all of these best practices and make it very simple for new writers to onboard and just basically create really high quality content very consistently with very low error rate. And it's also something that you can use with AI and to help structure AI outputs. And we have been moving towards using much more AI to create the content and then having the human more in an editor role. And that can lower costs and speed things up significantly. But these fundamentals still apply. And a lot of times the AI needs to be checked on some of this stuff. Obviously, inserting images and rich CTAs, that's a lot more difficult for AI to do accurately, so we have humans doing that. Internal linking, AI can help with that, but ultimately it's the human decision around how do we want to categorize content, because AI can get it confused sometimes. And then making sure that the customer perspective is always there. That's one of the biggest ones. We want to make sure that every piece of content that we are producing as an agency or as a media brand is from the perspective or for the perspective of the customer, so that the customer knows they are in the right place to learn the information that they need. A lot of brands want to just talk about their brand and why their brand is so great, and customers do not want this anymore. Like, there is enough content out there. They are going to go back and they're going to look for somewhere that actually solves their real problem, or they are going to go to AI because AI is always going to say things in a way that pleases them. So yeah, if you want to beat it, you got to play that game and really write to the customer. Spear intro, I won't get into this, but there's a link here. Spear is basically an acronym for how to write a really powerful introduction. And it's basically about nailing why the customer is there, the pain points they have, showing your expertise as the brand, and what the audience is looking for, and then building rapport, showing that you understand the customer's problems and you're here to help solve them in ABC way. So having that right up front is really, really important. And that's something I see missing on basically 100% of brand blogs, and probably causes the bounce rates that we see because people come and they see something like this that just doesn't add anything to the conversation. It's already obvious things that everyone knows. Everyone who's coming here is looking for a wireless dash cam. They know it makes a big difference. This doesn't engage them, and people have such short attention spans now, they're likely to just go back to Google, and like I said at the beginning, that's a major negative signal to Google that, okay, we're not going to show this article anymore because people don't like it. They're just leaving immediately. Such engaging content, you can post 2 to 5 times a week is what I usually recommend to brands. It's going to take 3 to 6 months for your first rankings if you have a new blog, but for Wolfbox, they already have content, so stuff is going to rank, if it's high quality, a lot faster. Having a comprehensive content strategy, that's obviously very important. That's why I laid out all of these pillars, and every brand needs to be doing that based on what they sell, the problems that they're solving for customers, and then who their ideal customers are. That helps create a sort of what I call topical map or topic space that they can then create content to rank in. And one big thing here is to go beyond your products to the problems that your ideal customer has. So we actually have just been talking about dash cams throughout the content here because there is so much content to be made just on dash cams. But for some products, there isn't all that much content to be created about the product itself. And in those cases, you really want to start going beyond your products very quickly into the lifestyle and the needs of your customers. So for instance, I was recently talking to a sunglasses brand. For sunglasses, there's not all that much that you can write about a pair of sunglasses. It doesn't do all that much. But there is a whole lifestyle around that brand of active lifestyles, hiking, sports, and those are areas where you can write a lot of content that may seem unrelated to the brand, but helps bring people into the brand. So for instance, tennis players. Tennis players are spending a lot of time outside. They probably want eye protection for one, and they're constantly facing sunlight and sun glare. So creating content just about tennis in general can help pull people in who are interested in the sunglasses that brand is selling. So just an example of going beyond your products, just go towards the problems that your ICP has and solve those. That's going to create a lot of goodwill. It's going to get a lot of shares on your content and create this flywheel for you that starts bringing in tons of new customers without your active involvement. Repurposing, so this is another part of this flywheel idea. So to me, a piece of content, a blog post, it's just an idea. You can reuse it everywhere across your entire marketing stack. So we use AI tools to do this where we can create emails, social media, ads, press, digital PR pitches, all of this out of blog posts, and then spread that across the internet. And that essentially feeds all of these more active content-driven channels, especially social media, with a lot of really good, useful content without the extra effort of having to plan the campaigns and photo shoots and all of that stuff. You can shortcut a lot of that just by repurposing what you're creating here and the strategy that you've created for your content. And then measure and iterate. So always the last part of every good campaign is to measure the impact and then iterate and improve. So we do this sometimes monthly, sometimes quarterly, depending on the brand. We look at what content is driving traffic and conversions, and then we just adjust the strategy and the templates to take the best of what we're seeing. So whatever topics are performing really well, we start to prioritize those and build out more in those areas. And then whichever templates we see are doing really well, we start to hone in and improve and optimize those templates. And this iterative process, when we first started creating content, we were earning pennies per visitor, and now we are earning over $2 per visitor with purely organic content and organic visitors. So you can really get, like, this was probably 100x return or improvement on our content, and more than 100x return. So 90-day plan, like if I was working on Wolfbox, what would I do? First thing I would do is audit what they have now, the core guides they have now, and audit it with search intent in mind. So when you look at a topic like wireless dash cams, why is someone arriving here? And we can use tools like Ahrefs to look at these these pages, and basically see what keywords are leading people here. So like this is a great example. The top content for Wolfbox is not these product related roundups, because they're not delivering the value that they should be. They are basically helpful content, like what is a TF card versus an SD card, how to format a micro SD card. This is what's getting traffic on their blog, because it's short, to the point, and it's delivering real value that customers are looking for. So that's the way I would look at these core guides, figure out what the search intent is, and then optimize for that search intent. Then I would start launching what we call the money pages, the comparisons, the versus pages, the best roundups. That's going to have an immediate impact on the bottom line and kind of sets the foundation for all the other content, because all the informational content that we write is going to link into that content and feed to it. And then I would also add to turn the firmware updates into a retention flywheel. So you can get email signups through those. I would start putting email signups in a lot of these informational pieces on the Wolfbox blog and try to get people into an email flow. And then, like I said, with repurposing, we can then repurpose a lot of this content to create a lot of value in people's inboxes by educating them on dash cams, on driving, on laws related to dash cams, all these things that might be keeping them from buying. But if they came to a page like this and they're interested in a dash cam, they put in their email, they want to know more, they just want you to push them along and teach them more about what the right product is for them. And we can do that through drip emails as well. So the next step for Wolfbox, and really for any brand, if any of this resonated with you and you think, I need to get on organic content, I see the opportunity, is to either identify a DRI on your team that is ideally going to be building agents and workflows with AI to handle creating the content strategy and then publishing all of the content, filling it with photos and CTAs and everything, or just hire an agency who is going to handle this build out end to end. And that's what we do. So if you're interested in learning more about those services, my email is in the description below. Just shoot me a note and I'll talk to you soon. Cool. That's all I have for the breakdown today. Thank you. Peace.